One of our guys said today, let's remember that we have a target on our back. And I said, that's 100%, that's true. But once again, a target on our back isn't what motivates us to improve and chase greatness every single day. It's the love of the work, the love of the process, and then most importantly, loving doing it with the guys that are here in this circle.
Welcome to the Jamodi Podcast. We are all surrounded by amazing coaches and leaders. So let's get an inside look at not just what they do, but how they do what they do. After all, becoming the best versions of ourselves is Jamodi, just a matter of doing it. Today we are joined by the head men's basketball coach at Florida Atlantic University, Dustin May. In 2022-23, Coach May led Florida Atlantic to its greatest season in school history. He guided the Owls to the Final Four while posting a program-best 35-4 record. Prior to last season, the Owls had one previous appearance in the NCAA tournament, but last year, he led the Owls to not just their first win in the Big Dance, but all the way to the Final Four in Houston. Coach May has been named the CBS Sports National Coach of the Year, as well as the NABC All-District 17 Coach of the Year, Conference USA Coach of the Year, and Palm Beach County Coach of the Year. He's the Owls' all-time leader in coaching wins with a record of 101-60, despite having only been on the FAU sidelines for 5 seasons. Before we hear from Coach, take a moment to subscribe to our podcast and follow us on social media at Jamodi Podcast.
Ready to go.
Yeah. So, man, thank you so much for giving up a little bit of your time to talk hoops with me. This is an honor, man.
Oh, I appreciate it.
So tell me kind of this spring, actually leading into the summer now, what's life like for you?
Well, it's been extremely busy since the season. Essentially, we went right into, I guess, dinners, lunches, speaking engagements. It was the most marketable we've ever been as a program. So we felt like we needed to really capitalize on, trying to benefit from the the new NIL rules, and trying to sell season tickets and try to sell out our arena on a consistent basis and raise money to build a new facility and things like that. So it's been nonstop since the season ended, but we started workouts yesterday. We began workouts. So now it's back to coaching basketball. So we've had a blast these last 2 days. Fortunately for us, we didn't have to revamp our roster after the season, or it would have been almost impossible with the time constraints that we had already.
Because of the success you had, all of the meetings, I'm sure you've been asked to be on a ton of podcasts. So again, the fact that you'd agree to be on mine, I'm just down here in Dallas, Fort Worth, in Texas. It's just really cool. Is that, do you kind of welcome all of that? Or like you said, man, I really want to get back to the basketball, or is it just kind of a part of it?
Well, the basketball side, podcasts, videos, clinics, I love doing this stuff because we're talking about things I love to talk about. The other things, the fundraising, the asking for money, I'm not by nature. It's hard for me to ask for favors. It's hard for me to ask for anything. So it's gotten me out of my comfort zone. It's putting me in a different position, but it's something that I needed to learn and grow through. So one side of it is good. The other side of it is it takes you away from what you really enjoy doing. And I think we all know that we're better at the things that we enjoy doing because we practice more.
Yeah. And ultimately it's a compliment because of just the amazing year that you had. This new platform that you have, it's going to benefit obviously your team, but also I got to imagine the whole university.
Yeah. And another thing, we can't complain that no one cares and then complain that everyone cares. So that's good. Well, we can. I mean, we actually could, but we choose not to.
That's right.
We've been fighting since we got this job to generate buzz and attention and put the spotlight on our guys and our program, and we were finally able to do that. But it will be nice when things settle back into normalcy.
Yeah, what a great call right there. Like, man, I wish somebody would pay attention to our program. Golly, I wish they'd just leave me alone. Like that. I didn't think about that. That's good. Yeah.
Yeah.
I got to imagine that you've been coaching for a long time and start off with Coach Knight as a student assistant. Is that correct?
Student manager. Yes, I actually played 1 year in Division II and ran cross country at what was then a Division II school. Now it's an NAI university. And then I wanted to be a high school coach. So I thought the best path or avenue for me to be a varsity head coach in the state of Indiana would be to go work for Coach Knight as a student manager and learn from him. So obviously the career took a different turn.
But I got to imagine that was a cool experience. And then so getting to learn from him and then working your way up, I would imagine you have some daily habits that set you up for success. So kind of take me through morning routine, daily stuff that you just know kind of sets you on the right path.
Well, right when I wake up, I probably break the cardinal sin, number one, of looking at my phone immediately to check text messages and emails. And I listen to a ton of podcasts, and I try to get better and improve. But that's one habit that I just can't break. And it's the first 5 or 10 minutes of my day is just to see who texts late night from across the world, whatever the case, and respond. I scroll through Twitter to see if I miss anything juicy on the NBA scene the night before. And then I head into the office, and the first at least 30 minutes, maybe depending on the time of year, depending on what time I got up to go in, 30 minutes to an hour and 30 minutes of self-improvement. I read, I watch film, whatever it is. I try to do something outside of our team in order just to improve myself. So that's been something I've always tried to do first thing in the morning, because that's when I'm the most creative. My brain is functioning the best early mornings. And I never work out in the mornings because I wait until I hit a lull in the afternoons, and I get fatigued in the afternoons, and then I go work out as to try to just generate a little bit of energy and some buzz.
That's a good nugget right there. I think the times when I do work out in the morning, probably about 1:30, 2 o'clock, golly, I just start to hit a wall. And so that's a good point. It's a way to get through. What are some, as far as reading goes? I mean, obviously there are probably a bunch of books you could go to, but what are some genres or areas that you like to stay in?
Obviously, basketball, leadership, coaching are the things that I enjoy the most. But I guess this morning, this is Doug Lamotte's books, and it's more like a textbook.
Yeah.
But I'll read it for 5 or 10 minutes, and it literally, you can see it because it literally is a textbook, Teach Like a Champion. So it's slow to read. It's not enjoyable like a fiction or nonfiction. So I'll read 2 to 5 pages depending on how locked in I am. And now I'm reading Ray Dalio's Principles as kind of enjoyment. And I'll read probably 10 to 25 pages a morning of that. And then I have a number of different things that I'll watch on film. But it might be articles in The Athletic that I saw the night before and didn't have time to read, or was doing something else. So anything to stimulate some thought, hopefully try to improve my vocabulary, generate, anything that's going to help me, an idea or nugget to give to our guys with, the inspiration behind that. So that's why I do it. But also I just feel naked if I haven't done something to improve myself a little bit.
I always feel a little bit behind or out of sorts. I feel like when I just, if I do happen to sleep in late and I literally just show up to work and I have to get going with either a class or our athletic period. Yeah, there's just something rushed about the rest of the day where I always feel a little bit behind. So I get that. So many guys have told me about the Doug Lamothe books, and I haven't read any of them, but almost everybody has said the same thing, that they're a lot and it takes a long time to get through.
It's like reading a college textbook, but I'm not reading it to enjoy because I enjoy reading it. I read his stuff because I improve by reading it, and it usually causes me to reevaluate what I'm doing. And I've stolen a lot of ideas, and I feel like we feel like we've gotten some immediate return. And so I think I've probably read or listened to every podcast, every book, or listened to every podcast he's ever done. I'm actually going to go to Miami. He's speaking at a conference in July, and I'm going to drive down and just kind of be a fly on the wall.
Oh, nice.
So really excited about that.
What are a couple of those takeaways that you've implemented with your team where you feel like, yeah, I would definitely felt the difference?
Well, first and foremost, just the encouraging mistakes in practice, and we learn a lot more through a mistake than we do success. So it's just we praise mistakes, and we let our guys know that this is the right time to make that mistake, because now we won't make it when the lights are on and you're playing a game. And then just the concept of immediately after learning something, as soon as we learn something, we immediately begin to forget it. And so there's a process that the brain operates where you learn something, you forget it, and then we go back to it. So our practices will jump around. If we introduce a new play, we may introduce it in a walkthrough setting, and then we do some type of one-on-one live. And just in the middle of one-on-one live, I'll say, stop, let's run fist five. And it's okay to be wrong. It's okay to not know. Think about it. If you need the staff, we're here. Otherwise, I want you guys to figure it out on your own. And then if they need help, then we help them. But otherwise, we encourage them to coach each other to talk them their way through it. And then we go back to doing something else. And then maybe 20 minutes later, we go back to the same play again and run that play. And so we feel like it's been a big part of our guys learning, taking in a lot of information and really absorbing it. And then it becomes what he terms as long-term memory as opposed to working memory. And anything that's in our long-term memory, we don't have to think about anymore. It's automatic and it doesn't overload our brain because when the lights come on, we're trying to just play basketball based on what we've done in practice and workouts. And so it's been I can't recommend his work anymore as a coach that's been impacted and affected by it.
Coach, that's big time, because as you're talking about the way that you weave in any of those new concepts and hit it again and again throughout practice. I love the idea of it being at random times. You're in the middle of defensive shell and you pause and you ask them to get back into something. I'm definitely going to borrow that. But it made me think of all the times where I feel like I've done that wrong. Like how many coaches at the beginning of practice, it's like, all right, hey, listen, here's a new action. Let's rep through a little bit, go through the rest of practice, leave. And then 3 nights later in a game, we're in a timeout. Hey, let's go. Let's run this play. You see deer in the head, like, hey, fellas, I mean, we walked through it. We spent time on it. Like, did you? Did you really? Like, I think you nailed it there.
And as you're evolving as a coach, you almost feel embarrassed that you didn't know that before. You think how many more people you could have helped. I mean, that's how it is for me every year. I can't believe I didn't know that before now, but that's part of being a constant learner. The other thing probably that I'll take with me, whatever profession I was in, would be cold calling. And typically, this is something we've learned as coaches. When you ask a question, hey, what's number 12 going to do on the down screen, whether he likes to fade it or curl or whatever the case, and you ask a question, and 1 or 2 guys answer every question over the course of a season, and you feel great because it's the question's being answered. So obviously, everyone's absorbing the same information. Well, we ask a question, and then we give them a few seconds to process and think. And then we call on someone different every time. So you ask a question, I look around the circle. All right, Matt, it's okay to be wrong. I don't care if you know this answer, but even if you don't know it, you're going to learn it because you're thinking about it now. And by being wrong, you're going to be able to process it and get it right next time. And so we just ask somebody different every single time. And I never get angry if they don't know, even if we talked about it 5 minutes before and they zoned out. I zone out, you probably zone out. It's part of being a human being. If there's a distraction, then we get distracted by it. So, if someone walks into my office now and I get distracted in this interview, then you're probably going to be distracted and off of what you were doing. So we don't get mad at them for being humans. We just try to find the best way for us to learn the material and all be on the same page. And that's really helped us just by simply making sure they're all engaged. Because as a young player, if you asked a question, I was probably thinking about what I was going to have for dinner or what my mom packed for lunch that day or whatever the case. I wasn't thinking about and processing what the question was. So that's probably the other thing that's been the most impactful in our program.
That's such a good point, because I think we're guilty of feeling like our whole program is moving in one direction because Johnny and Jimmy know what we're talking about. And those are the two that, for whatever, because we use a lot of PGC principles. So a lot of my guys have gone to those camps. So the ones that go to camps, when I ask a question, what does Huppy stand for? They can rattle it off. And I feel really good about that. But the guys that didn't go to PGC, they don't know it. But yet I'll just check off that box. So I think that's a great point. And then and it helps too. Like, I think if all of your players know, it's kind of like just in the classroom, these are good teaching principles. If all of your students or players know that there's a chance that their name is going to be called, maybe there's a heightened sense of paying attention because, oh crap, you never know. Like we pray at the end of practice, and occasionally, instead of just saying who'd like to close us out in prayer, I'll call on somebody. Coach, you want to see a kid squirm. If it's a guy that hasn't prayed very often in front of people, right, that happens.
Right. And then I'm sure the next time they're thinking about what they're going to say and what the message is going to be. And then in long term, it helps them, be able to formulate a plan and their thoughts anyway. So there's a lot of positives.
How do you keep that from turning into almost like a gotcha, though? Because my eyes, I think, might just scan for who doesn't seem to be paying attention. And then I got, because it seems to, from you, it doesn't sound like it's a very safe way to share information that they know, but it's okay if they make mistakes. So as a coach, how do you keep it from, yeah, he's not looking at me, I'm going to call on him?
Well, we just ask for their eyes. Hey, can I get everybody's attention? Can I get everybody's eyes real quick? This is important. This could help us win a game. This could help us win a possession. And we have an unbelievable group of young men that has great character. And it's not just me. They give each other. And that, we don't have a lot of rules, but if someone's speaking, we make eye contact and we let them finish what they're saying, and then we try to pause and process what they said. And if we have a response, we have a response. But I think it's part of our culture now. We've been here 5 years, and it hasn't always been like this. But so I don't know if it's the chicken or the egg. I don't know if it's the culture or it's the people, but it's definitely some combination of both. Because, and I do. You said it best. It's safe. It's a very safe place. Our program, our locker room, our offices are safe to be open, honest, and transparent. Even if we don't like each other, what each other's going to say, we're very comfortable and we don't take offense to it. I've had in the season meetings, guys come in and say things that I would have never said to a coach in a million years. And I'm grateful that they did, because I take it in and I say, you know what, you're probably right. And your first reaction is to explain why you did that. Well, with these young men that you're trying to earn their trust daily, they don't care why you did it. All they know is how you made them feel when you did it. So usually I apologize and say, I can see how you felt that way. And now here's my side of the equation, and and even I've done that, and afterwards said that's not really important. He told me what he was thinking and feeling. There's no reason for me to explain why I made him feel like that. All I
Mm.
can do now is take that information and figure out a way to impact him in a better way.
I love the way that you take that approach with your players. I think that works at the high school level with parents as well. I felt like over the years, most of the time parents just want to be heard. They're not really like, rarely do I say something that make them go, "Oh, you're right. The
Yeah.
way I was feeling is wrong." I would imagine players are the same way.
No question, and especially when we try as a staff that if we do something, if we jump, I don't say jump because we're not that confrontational. We're very open and direct. But if we get on a guy and he doesn't respond well, then we try not to do that again. We try to figure out what he responds to, what
Yeah.
motivates him, what's his intrinsic motivation, what's his why, and then we simply try to do that, because all we want is what's them to be at their best. Now, the flip side of it is their next coach may not be quite as accommodating to how they learn and their emotions. But I guess if you're I guess I don't want to say training, but if you're training independent thinkers, independent learners, then they're going to be able to adapt to the situation if we do a great job here. So I think it definitely outweighs the fact that they might play for a tyrant in Kosovo or someplace after the fact. But they'll be grown men, and they'll decide do they want to keep that check and deal with it or give the check back. So
The Jamodi podcast is powered by Sideline Interactive. Sideline Interactive is the leading manufacturer for high-quality, innovative scoring tables and LED video display boards that help coaches and schools bring more excitement to fans, create huge fundraising opportunities, and make their jobs easier. Visit sidelineinteractive.com to check out their amazing products.
One of my best friends down here, his name's Matt Garnett. I was let him know that I was going to have this talk with you. He got super excited. He's like, man, he's like Ted Lasso. Like that's how he kind of described. I don't know if you've heard that before or anything, but with your background starting out, especially around a guy like Bobby Knight, which I don't know if I can. I got to when I played. He was at Texas Tech, so I was able to kind of see him on the sidelines a little bit and kind of have a small interaction. But and he might have been different behind the scenes. I don't know. But starting out with that type of influence is the positive side. And you've already described a lot of ways, the way that you guys talk to players and how you get onto them and how, but in a positive way. And is that something that's always been you, or is it something that you've had to grow and kind of move into that space?
no, by nature, it's about 180 degrees different than who I am as a person. I was a small, fiery, hothead, confrontational young man. I had anger management issues when I was young, and they took me into my mid 20s. And I even coached like a coach night times 10 as far as confrontation and yelling. And Luckily I coached AAU when I was about 20 years old, and I got the first glimpse of what it did to the people that I was coaching. And I'm
Mm,
still close with those guys now, but they didn't have a memorable experience, and I didn't have a memorable experience. So I just realized early on that that wasn't me. And then as I evolved into coaching and really watched how players responded to the guys I was working for and working with, I just decided that this fits me a lot better, especially, I'm a small guy. Now I am confrontational. I am very direct. If we have an issue, then we're gonna be talking about it within 2 minutes. It's not gonna linger. I'm not afraid of confrontation. Just my confrontations are a lot different than they used to be. It's more of, this is what I see. I feel like this is how it's affecting those around you, and it needs to be changed immediately versus yelling and raising my voice. And typically now, if I have to raise my voice, it just tells our players that this is something that's really irritating coach, or it's something that just he's not going to stand for, something that's very important. Yesterday, for example, in workouts, we had made about 1,000 mistakes, and we try to learn from our mistakes in practice. And there was one play where just two guys simply just quit playing because of the mistake, and the whole gym, everyone got on them, the players, the managers, the coaches. And I stopped and I said, we've all made a lot of mistakes today. That's the first mistake that anyone, I guess, raised their voice. Why do you think that is? And they paused
mm.
for a second and didn't have the answer. And I asked one of the managers, I said, why do you think everyone in the gym just got angry? They said, because they quit on the play. And I said, exactly. So that tells you the order of the highest order of business in our program. It's the effort, it's the being a great teammate, it's all those things, much more than making or missing a shot or turn the ball over. We're going to learn through those things, but we don't ever we can't ever condone quitting on a play or quitting on your teammates. So I think by us raising our voices, very rarely it shows a high level of importance and urgency for whatever just happened.
No doubt, because the players, if you're just yelling about everything, they're going to tune you out real quick, and they're going to start to feel like nothing is really important to you. If everything makes you angry, then what do I do? It's like a no-win situation as a player. I think maybe it's changing now, but positivity and having that kind of be your mantra, it's not weak. It doesn't mean weak, and it doesn't mean passive. I think it's hard to do. Like, you got to be mentally tough when those moments that just grinded that 20-year-old self that that you were, that comes up. Because I was a very similar way, and I played for a guy that was basically Bobby Knight's disciple and Dave Bliss. Very
Yeah.
similar, very similar. So that's how I played, or that's what I like to play for. So I wanted to emulate that. And then you're right. One of the questions I try to bring up to myself, and I think it's good for a coach to ask, is, would you want to play for a coach like you? And I think deep down, if I'm honest, 10 years ago, heck no, I don't want to play for that guy.
There's definitely been times in my career when I wouldn't want my sons to play for me. Now I do. I would, and I tell people this to the guys I work for. That's what I used to tell in recruiting. My greatest compliment is that I would send my sons to play for the guy that I was working for.
Hmm.
And hopefully, I know now, based on who I try to be, I would send my sons to play for me. And hopefully my assistants would say that to the players they're recruiting, that the best compliment you can give someone is you would hire them, or you'd send your sons to play for them, or something along those lines. So absolutely. And I'm with you. I don't think I would have earlier in my career, but I think I would have. But I'm with you. I enjoyed being coached like that. It made me tough and competitive, and it made us close as play. It made our group close as players. But I do think times have changed, and it's just such a different era and culture now. And I've spent a lot of time thinking about why it's different. And I do believe that the military back then, a lot of the men had some form of military in their background, and that's the way the men in military communicated and intimidated and forced, because it's life or death. And what we're doing is not life or death. It's simply trying to be a little bit better than you were the last possession or the last practice or the last game. So it's just two different worlds, where when you're talking about something that's that intense versus something that requires great intensity, but it's not really life or death.
That's right. Just because you and I enjoy playing, and we're probably lucky because of how we were raised. I came from a disciplined home. So when I went to a very disciplined and in that kind of way disciplined program, I was okay with it. But I'm sure you could think of a few teammates that you had that were talented and could have helped us win, but they couldn't handle that.
And so, like, again, it's not something where, oh, yeah, back in the day, this is just how we all. No, there were kids that didn't respond to it then. How much better could it have been for them if they were playing in an environment kind of like you created?
No question. To be honest, my mother raised me, and she worked all the time and went to night school. So I essentially was raised by the neighborhood kids and babysitters and whatnot. And so I didn't have that discipline, but I embraced it because I wanted to be like my coaches. So as soon as I got deep into basketball, my coaches were my role models. They were my heroes. So I embraced it because I wanted whatever they said to me was gospel. There was never any unless they called me selfish or they called me soft, then I took it really, really personal. Otherwise, because I took pride in being unselfish and being tough. So
Yeah.
anything else I embraced and really bought into what they're saying because that's who I admired.
But that's a great nugget there too. Like for us to make sure that we never underestimate the role that we play in our players' lives. We might not even realize it at the time, just how big of a part of forming and shaping them we really play. And to, man, not take that for granted, right?
No question. 100%. Assistant coaches, support staffers, head coaches, we all have an impact. And when you're intentional about pouring into your players every single day, it's amazing how much they can grow over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years, which is when we're fortunate that we have guys with us for 5 years.
We've already kind of went into culture a little bit, and that's a buzzword that is thrown around a lot today, but everybody has one. And you could also call them standards or pillars. But in your opinion, how does culture drive performance?
Well, it drives performance because it's how we operate every single day. We have expectations and standards of being prepared for practice. Well, I mean, we only have 3 rules: we're on time, we're prepared, and we're engaged at all times. And so that's our culture. And there's obviously there's a lot of things that we do that have become common behaviors. For example, letting someone finish in the heat of a battle, let them finish talking, giving everyone input and valuing their opinion and their perspective. And so those are the things that we consider our culture, the things that we do every single day, and the expectations we have of how we operate, how we move. And so we don't really define our culture. We just feel like you can really feel our culture. And once you're in it, then you can see the difference in ours and where they were before or where else they've been. And it's something we take a lot of pride in, but we don't talk about a lot. We don't have signs. We have one shirt, and the shirt says serve and compete. We feel like if we're all continually trying to serve our teammates, society as a whole, and we're elite competitors, then that's going to take care of everything else. Because if you're an elite competitor, then you're going to try to get better because you want to win, and winning is important. So we don't have a lot of slogans and mantras and signs and T-shirts and everything else. We just feel like it's something that we model daily, and it becomes who we are as opposed to a slogan.
Man, I love that. There's a legendary coach in West Texas. His name is Jeff Evans. And I recently had a hoops talk with him. And he said, if you keep having to talk about how disciplined your program is, probably not very disciplined. And then he said, if you have to talk about your culture and how great your culture is, probably don't have a good culture. Like, I think that's kind of what you're saying. There is a way for you to show up and know how you show up every day with those standards, but not have to have it just fully defined in a four pillars, 5, a 3-legged stool. All that stuff is fine, but I think you have a way that, I don't know, probably makes it real.
We feel like it is, and it's something. Even as a young coach, I felt like I needed these things to define our culture, and and to be honest, and we came up with these things, and I don't even remember what they are now, 3 or 4 years later. So it shows how, and our culture is 100 times better than it was then. I used to do Monday morning meetings with the leadership council. I used to try all of these things, and we didn't feel like we had near as good a culture as we do now. And part of it is just the people, the quality and character of people in our program, but also the internal leadership in our locker room and just the overall, the personal relationship. Those things are stronger on all fronts. And that's why our culture is better, in my opinion.
When you and I are talking, it's right at the beginning of the summer. And so this is the time I feel like as coaches that I don't care what level you're at, you're looking back at the things that you did well and that you want to continue, but then you're also evaluating what things can we change or how can we stretch our program. I think it'd be a great exercise to look at the culture that you have. And let's just say you happen to have 5 words that are on posters, that are on T-shirts. Really evaluate, do those 5 words, do we actually live those out? Because how many times do you have an acronym, but deep down, that's not really who we are. And find out, ask your players, ask your assistant coaches, what phrases do we say? Like, what things do we actually try to show up as every day? I think that'd be a valuable exercise to do this time of year.
100%. I stole the term. We always do a season review, and I heard Coach Spolster say it recently about a season autopsy. And so even when we're doing our season autopsy, we go back to the notes from last summer, our objectives, what we wanted to get, what we really wanted to accomplish from a micro and macro level. And then did we get a high rate of return on this versus this versus this? And there's certain things we're like, man, we really did that well. We got a high rate of return on that. And then there are other things. We spent a lot of time on that last summer and it didn't work, or that just wasn't for us. We need to be smarter with what we need to spend our time on. And so, yeah, it's the same thing. And now that you say that, we definitely need to add a category to our culture. What did we do culturally that helped, I guess, create a stronger bond? And then what did we do that could have, hurt the group? And that's one of the things that anytime someone's getting, I guess, I don't want to say out of line, but anytime they're straying or they're feeling it's some type of way, we simply just remind the group that none of us, me included, are going to do anything to subtract from this group. All of us are going to add in some capacity, whether it's through effort, words, energy, some capacity. We're all going to add to this group. And if we do that, we're going to do special things. But if we're constantly having to pull guys back into the group because they're subtracting from the group, whether it's an off-court issue, whether it's an attitude problem, whatever it is, then we're not going to max out as a group. So culturally, that's one of the things we started talking about this year. We'd be in the heat of a battle and somebody would be arguing with their teammate, and we'd simply remind them, hey, we're not going to subtract from this group. Right now, your attitude and the way you're talking to your teammate is subtracting from this group, and let's refocus and get back. And now whatever you want to say, let's talk about it. Let's get it on the table, but we're not going to act the way we're acting right now, where we're rolling our eyes at each other and pulling away. Let's listen to what the guy's saying. Let's process it and decide if it's, what we need to do next.
The girls coach at Lubbock Christian University, their slogan is, you're not that important. I thought, yeah. Man, that's big. He even said it on the recruiting trips. Like when the parents come, just so you guys understand, or ladies understand, at our program, you're not that important. That's impressive. Yeah. Hey, I got to ask though, after a 35-4 record, Final Four appearance, and just a legendary season, how hard is it to find those areas that you feel like we can be better, we can improve? Because I think sometimes maybe it's after bad seasons, obviously we got to blow this thing up. We got to figure out ways. But maybe there's a tendency after a successful season, let's just roll this thing into the next one and keep going. How tough has that been for you?
Well, we love to evolve and do different things and build on what we already do to make us more diverse offensively, whether it's figuring out a different way to steal a layup here and there, or find an easy basket. So we're always trying to do that from a basketball standpoint. But, our message this coming year is going to be, well, this summer going into the year is what, a lot of people would think that 35-4, have the 18-2 in a really good league is okay. We just gotta stay going and keep plugging. And our message is that we played in 12 games, 5 points or less. So basically 2 possessions or less. And we went 11-1. And the year before that, we had a terrible record in 1 possession or 2 possession games. So if you're in 12 1-possession games, then we're probably going to be the numbers. Then I'd say we'll probably be 6-6 or 7-5 or 5-7 because you're playing a close game against a similar match team. And so now we need to clean up a few mistakes each half, so we're not in 1-possession games or 2-possession games. So those then are 4 to 7 possession games. And then if we miss a free throw, it's okay. If we don't get a stop, then we still have a little bit of margin of error And so that's our goal going forward, that we still have to get significantly better, or the odds say that we'll lose about 5 more games than we lost last year, even if we stay healthy and even if we're just as good, just because the randomness of winning and losing.
Coaches, the Jamodi podcast is powered by Ballogy. Manage and measure your players' skill development and increase accountability year-round utilizing the Ballogy app. Boost inter-squad competition with drills backed by the National High School Basketball Coaches Association, including a 40-shot Ballogy skills assessment. Please visit ballogy.com/teams for information on how you can provide this resource for your team. We've already kind of went into culture a little bit, and that's a buzzword that is thrown around a lot today, but everybody has one, and you could also call them standards or pillars. But in your opinion, how does culture drive performance?
Well, it drives performance because it's how we operate every single day. We have expectations and standards of being prepared for practice. Well, I mean, we only have 3 rules: we're on time, we're prepared, and we're engaged at all times. And so that's our culture. And there's obviously there's a lot of things that we do that have become common behaviors. For example, letting someone finish in the heat of a battle, let them finish talking, giving everyone input and valuing their opinion and their perspective. And so those are the things that we consider our culture, the things that we do every single day, and the expectations we have of how we operate, how we move. And so we don't really define our culture. We just feel like you can really feel our culture. And once you're in it, then you can see the difference in ours and where they were before or where else they've been. And it's something we take a lot of pride in, but we don't talk about a lot. We don't have signs. We have one shirt, and the shirt says serve and compete. We feel like if we're all continually trying to serve our teammates, society as a whole, and we're elite competitors, then that's going to take care of everything else. Because if you're an elite competitor, then you're going to try to get better because you want to win, and winning's important. So we don't have a lot of slogans and mantras and signs and T-shirts and everything else. We just feel like it's something that we model daily, and it becomes who we are as opposed to a slogan.
Man, I love that. There's a legendary coach in West Texas. His name is Jeff Evans. And I recently had a hoops talk with him, and he said, if you keep having to talk about how disciplined your program is, probably not very disciplined. And then he said, if you have to talk about your culture and how great your culture is, probably don't have a good culture. Like, I think that's kind of what you're saying. There is a way for you to show up and know how you show up every day with those standards, but not have to have it just fully defined in a four pillars, 5, a 3-legged stool. All that stuff is fine, but I think you have a way that, I don't know, probably makes it real.
We feel like it is, and it's something. Even as a young coach, I felt like I needed these things to define our culture, and and to be honest, and we came up with these things, and I don't even remember what they are now, 3 or 4 years later. So it shows how in our culture is 100 times better than it was then. I used to do Monday morning meetings with the leadership council. I used to try all of these things, and we didn't feel like we had near as good a culture as we do now. And part of it is just the people, the quality and character of people in our program, but also the internal leadership in our locker room and just the overall, the personal relationship. Those things are stronger on all fronts. And that's why our culture is better, in my opinion.
When you and I are talking, it's right at the beginning of the summer. And so this is the time I feel like as coaches that I don't care what level you're at, you're looking back at the things that you did well and that you want to continue, but then you're also evaluating what things can we change or how can we stretch our program. I think it'd be a great exercise to look at the culture that you have. Let's just say you happen to have 5 words that are on posters, that are on T-shirts. Really evaluate, do those 5 words, do we actually live those out? Because how many times do you have an acronym, but deep down, that's not really who we are. And find out, ask your players, ask your assistant coaches, what phrases do we say? Like, what things do we actually try to show up as every day? I think that'd be a valuable exercise to do this time of year.
100%. I stole the term. We always do a season review, and I heard Coach Spolster say it recently about a season autopsy. And so even when we're doing our season autopsy, we go back to the notes from last summer, our objectives, what we wanted to get, what we really wanted to accomplish from a micro and macro level. And then did we get a high rate of return on this versus this versus this? And there's certain things we're like, man, we really did that well. We got a high rate of return on that. And then there are other things we spent a lot of time on that last summer and it didn't work, or that just wasn't for us. We need to be smarter with what we need to spend our time on. And so, yeah, it's the same thing. And now that you say that, we definitely need to add a category to our culture. What did we do culturally that helped, I guess, create a stronger bond? And then what did we do that could have, hurt the group? And that's one of the things that anytime someone's getting, I guess, I don't want to say out of line, but anytime they're straying or they're feeling it's some type of way, we simply just remind the group that none of us, me included, are going to do anything to subtract from this group. All of us are going to add in some capacity, whether it's through effort, words, energy, some capacity. We're all going to add to this group. And if we do that, we're going to do special things. But if we're constantly having to pull guys back into the group because they're subtracting from the group, whether it's an off-court issue, whether it's an attitude problem, whatever it is, then we're not going to max out as a group. So culturally, that's one of the things we started talking about this year. We'd be in the heat of a battle and somebody would be arguing with their teammate, and we'd simply remind them, hey, we're not going to subtract from this group right now. Your attitude and the way you're talking to your teammate is subtracting from this group, and let's refocus and get back. And now, whatever you want to say, let's talk about it. Let's get it on the table. But we're not going to act the way we're acting right now, where we're rolling our eyes at each other and pulling away. Let's listen to what the guy's saying. Let's process it and decide if it's what we need to do next.
The girls' coach at Lubbock Christian University, their slogan is, "You're not that important." I thought, yeah. Man, that's big. He even said it on the recruiting trips. Like when the parents come, just so you guys understand, or ladies understand, at our program, you're not that important. That's impressive. Yeah. Hey, I got to ask though, after a 35-4 record, Final Four appearance, and just a legendary season, how hard is it to find those areas that you feel like we can be better, we can improve? Because I think sometimes maybe it's after bad seasons, obviously we got to blow this thing up. We got to figure out ways, but maybe there's a tendency after a successful season, let's just roll this thing into the next one and keep going. How tough has that been for you?
Well, we love to evolve and do different things and build on what we already do to make us more diverse offensively, whether it's figuring out a different way to steal a layup here and there, or find an easy basket. So we're always trying to do that from a basketball standpoint. But our message this coming year is going to be, well, this summer going into the year is what a lot of people would think, that 35-4, have the 18-2 in a really good league. Is okay. We just gotta stay going and keep plugging. And our message is that we played in 12 games, 5 points or less. So basically 2 possessions or less, and we went 11-1. And the year before that, we had a terrible record in 1 possession or 2 possession games. So, if you're in 12 1 possession games, then we're probably going to be the numbers. Then I'd say we'll probably be 6-6 or 7-5 or 5-7, because you're playing a close game against a similar match team. And so now we need to clean up a few mistakes each half, so we're not in 1 possession games or 2 possession games. So those then are 4 to 7 possession games. And then if we miss a free throw, it's okay. If we don't get a stop, then we still have a little bit of margin of error. And so that's our goal going forward, that we still have to get significantly better, or the odds say that we'll lose about 5 more games than we lost last year, even if we stay healthy and even if we're just as good, just because the randomness of winning and losing.
One of my favorite questions to ask is favorite style of play to teach. And we got to watch a lot of just the way that you used pace and space this year. And I just thought used the size of your players, their skill set so well. What's your favorite style of play to teach?
Well, I think playing fast, having no dead lag time, I think is more enjoyable to play. It's more enjoyable to coach, and it's more enjoyable to watch. And there is a part of our job is to entertain people that want to watch you in live and on television. And so I'm not naive to that, but I also am very grateful that most people who enjoy the game also watching the right type of ball, meaning unselfish, intense, the things that we enjoy, watching the sports we love. So, ball movement, cutting, philosophically, I love some type of 4 out, 1 in. The 5 out spacing is a great entry, but I feel like there's no driving lanes if it's 5 out. So we try to put pressure on the rim through a cutter. We usually have some type of 4 out, 1 in spacing. And to be honest, we tailor our offense around what our guys, especially our most talented offensive players, what they do well and how to counter that, and then also how to make the other guys successful by simply playing off of our greatest strengths.
You have different guys cut when you start with that 5 out look, but ultimately you're going to have one guy. And do you want to have the same guy or the same position in that dunker spot or porch or whatever? Or do you like to have multiple guys moving through there?
No, now that we have at least 4 skilled offensive players on the court at all times, meaning you can shoot at least pretty well, can dribble and pass pretty well. Some of them are great shooters and okay drivers. Some of them are great drivers and solid shooters. So now we basically just have cues and we have triggers, and now I think our guys have a much better understanding of what we're trying to accomplish because we've explained the why much better. But no, for example, if we pick and pop the next guy closest to the pop is an automatic cutter. And then as he cuts, then he makes a decision. Do I cut to score to the rim, or I hold in the short corner and evaluate what happens next? Or do I just respace to the other side and open up a double gap for the guy with the ball? So in the short roll, it's the same thing. On a short roll, we do this and this, and on a pick and pop, we do this and this. When there's a high ball screen and we're going towards the double or two side, we typically 45 cut and then try to get downhill for drive and kick. There's things we do, but there's constants as well, and it works much better because I think when they're having to take in less information by, for example, if I know I'm the next guy to a guy popping right in front of me, my eyes tell me he's popping, I have to get out of his way and make myself available. And versus, okay, am I a shooter? Am I a better shooter than this guy? Is he a better cutter than me? And all those questions that, as you get older and you're a veteran player, you can make a lot quicker. But when you're young, still trying to figure out, we feel like it's too much information in real time, and sometimes it would paralyze our guys.
Yeah. What do you do in practice to grow those instincts though? Because those reads and everything that you're saying, if you want to play and if you want to do them fast, they just don't have a lot of time to make those decisions. So what are you doing in practice?
Well, we never, and this is Doug Lemoff as well. I mean, an expert knows where to look. The biggest difference between an expert and a novice in any sport is we know where to look. When LeBron James catches on an action, he knows where to look, and if what he's looking for there is not open, then he knows it's almost an automatic to throw it to another place. So we just really try to educate our guys on knowing where to look and what to look for, and then you just trust the game slows down after so many reps. But we never do 5-on-0. We never do 2-on-0. We almost always have coaches out as guided defenders, or we have live defense. And even within when we're defending in practice, it'd be as simple as me walking by a guy that's at the top of the two side and say, hey, try to rotate on this pop and try to steal the pass. And that way we do so many different things that the defense does. And even our walk-ons almost become a defensive scout team where they're doing the things that we're going to see in games to try to get our guys prepared to read the situation and it's back to Coach Knight. If they do this, then we do this. If they do this, then we do this. And so once again, our goal offensively, 2 things is to look like a team that really enjoys sharing the ball and passing. And the second thing is to look like a bunch of 32 or 35-year-olds at the YMCA out hooping that just knows how to play ball.
Yeah.
And I'm confident right now, if you and I went out to the playground and picked up 3 dudes within 5 minutes, we'd have a good understanding of who needs to do what. And whether
Coach, you and I would have to do the majority of the work. I'm just guessing.
I'd be a screener and a cutter. I'd be trying to get some other guys open unless we're playing with bad players.
You lost me at 5-on-5 because I refuse to run now back in transition defense. So I only play 3-on-3 half court. That to me is beautiful basketball for my age.
It is. It's a lot of space to cover defensively. So
Well, you got to guard the right guy. So maybe we just need to guard each other that
yeah,
way. That because yeah.
one of our old head coach I used to work for, we played a lot of 5-on-5, and his transition offense was much better than his transition defense. We just considered ourselves elite 5-on-4 defenders. We had the rotations and
He's doing you a favor. He's really doing you a favor. Just getting you better.
Yeah, no question.
With such an incredible run and the attention that was coming towards your program, to you, to your players, what was your strategy to keep them focused on what was right in front of them, and not to get caught up in all the distractions and all the attention this past postseason?
We just talked about it daily. When it's time to work, it's time to work, and when it's when it's not work time, then enjoy it, absorb it however you may. Understand it's fleeting. Understand all these people that are coming around now. They lived next door last year. They didn't come around. So this isn't anything more than what success brings. But our guys, they really, really love to work and compete and prepare, and all the hard stuff that goes into playing games. They enjoy that part of it. And so it wasn't difficult. I'd love to sit here and give coaches information on what we did, and it worked to a T. But we got ranked at FAU in January, and so it was Martin Luther King Day, and I was extremely curious at how we would act and respond. It's a big deal to be ranked at a place that's never been ranked, that has no history or tradition of success, and to be ranked in the AP top 25. I mean, it's a big deal. And as you take a look back at it, and I was just curious at how our guys would act and respond, and we played harder, we prepared better. Even a couple of our guys said, "That doesn't mean anything. We don't care about that. Let's practice." Because I before shoot around Western Kentucky, I brought it up, and I think we went on to win by probably 18 or 20, and had a really good game. And it was our third game in 5 days. And then we went on a road trip and beat two. Went straight from there to El Paso or San Antonio. I forget which was first, and blew one out and beat the other one on another road trip. So during a 20 games winning streak during the season, you see you can tell a lot about your guys. And because of that, once we won a couple games in tournament, in the Sweet 16, Elite Eight, in all honesty, nothing really changed, and nothing's changed since. I mean, our guys are a little more popular. They're probably a little more handsome. But as far as the basketball side, these guys, we circle up and we talk about what we learned and what each guy, half the team probably speaks on a regular basis. One of our guys said today, "Let's remember that we have a target on our back." And I said, "That's 100%. That's true. But once again, a target on our back isn't what motivates us to improve and chase greatness every single day. It's the love of the work, the love of the process, and then most importantly, doing it with the guys that are here in this circle." So if we don't win at a high level this year, it's not because we have a target on our back. It's because we didn't play good enough basketball, and we got distracted from what made us us.
I love that approach. But I think you did share a strategy or a kind of a golden nugget at the very beginning, because you said we talked about it. Like I think there's been times where even at our small level of high school basketball, where we do get a ranking, and there's that kind of thought of, do I just kind of let that blow by, not really bring it up with my players? And if I do that, then I'm almost letting it up, giving up the chance, like hoping that they approach it the right way. Or like in everything else that we do, I can try to guide them through. What does it look like how do we handle this? What does this actually mean? Because Mike Neighbors at Arkansas, he said, rankings don't mean everything, but they don't mean nothing. So it's good to establish with your team, how do we handle this? And the same thing, like what a great point by that player. You got to love when guys feel that, like that pride or sense of responsibility almost, right, in the program and the legacy they have to carry on. But then you come back in and help them in those situations.
Well, that's another piece of our culture, that we decide in advance how we're going to respond to any adverse situation. A bad call, one of my proudest moments this year, and our proudest moments happened during the year. It wasn't the run. The run's happening so fast, but we talk about how we're going to respond in advance to adversity. And so we had one of our players, another player elbowed him in the face. And and he didn't respond. He showed his hands, asked the official to go to the monitor. We get 2 points out of it. That player gets a foul, has to sit out a majority of the second half, whatever the case. But we end up winning that game by 2 points. And it's one of those things where we had talked about several times in competitive, intense situations. We're going to respond in this way if we want to win. And we're going to get bad calls. The other team's going to talk trash. The other team's fans are going to say crazy things to us. But we decide now how we're going to respond. And one year we even did a mental conditioning, and we talk about all the things that this team is going to face this year: injuries, pressure from parents, pressure to play professional, pressure from high school coaches that want their AU coaches that want their former players to play at the college level. Whatever the case, we're all going to face these things. And right now in August, when we're not in the heat of the battle, we're going to decide right now how we're going to respond to all these things. So we even try to anticipate what our issues are going to be this year. Okay, we've got 5 seniors. Well, these seniors late in the season are going to be worried about what's next. They're with about a month to go in the season, they're going to say, holy cow, I've got a month of free rent left. I'm going to be in a real world in 30 days or 45 days, whatever it is. And they're going to start getting stressed about what's next. What are we going to decide now how we're going to solve that issue, and how are we going to respond? That's you 5 seniors. How are we going to respond to that? And usually it's, you know what, you're right. We're going to feel that, but we're going to control what we can control. And we're going to prepare for the future, but we're going to be focused on being the best we can today. So all those things, we just feel like we decide well in advance how we're going to respond to it.
Coach, I think I needed to hear that, and probably some other coaches too, because rarely do I outline what could go wrong. Usually, I think at the beginning of seasons, there's all this energy and optimism. Everybody thinks they're going to win state before the games begin. And you try to map that out. What does that road look like for your team? But it made me think of Doug Novak said the first thing they talk about is how they're going to lose, like how they're going to act and how they're going to handle a loss. And I thought, like, when I heard that, I thought, wow, like that's a different type of mentality. But you're right on the money. Like, we all know, you do this long enough, bad things are going to happen throughout a season. There is even the amazing run you had, it's not perfect. And again, basing our game off of hope is just never a good idea. Whether you're a player jumping to leap, to make a pass, you don't know what you're really going to do. Don't hope there. As a coach, don't hope that your teenagers or young men are going to handle adversity the right way. Give them a plan of attack for it. I love that, Coach.
Absolutely. It's really helped us.
Coaches, the Jamodi podcast is powered by Shoot 360. The future of basketball has arrived in Dallas-Fort Worth. Shoot 360 combines the latest sports technology with the fundamentals of basketball skill development. The result is a one-of-a-kind video game-like basketball program designed to improve your shooting, dribbling, and passing. Visit shoot360dfw.com to learn more and register for your free 1-hour workout evaluation. Shoot 360, the future of basketball is here. Frosty Westering wrote a book, Make the Big Time Where You Are. And I haven't read it yet, but George Barber at Greenville told me that he went out and met with Frosty, but the book is like $60 right now on Amazon because there's not a lot of copies. So
it's going down. I think when I bought it, it was $75.
Oh, okay. Still, from my wife's perspective, that's too much money to spend on an old book. But I'm interested, but I understand kind of the idea is, and I really did want to talk to you about this because I've been at this school for 10 years now, just finished my 10th year. It's by far, it's not the smallest school in Texas, but it's not one of the biggest by any means. But we do our very, very best to be excellent with what we do and care. You've been there 5 years. You're the winningest coach of all time already in 5 years. And after this run, Coach, let's just be honest, you see other guys that have done similar things moving on and going to that next big job. There's nothing wrong with that. But as a guy that stayed at one place for a long time, even when I kind of had that feeling, you just decided to stay there for a long time. So what is your idea behind or with making the big time where you are?
Well, the stuff is not that important. And I absolutely love our players, love our staff, love the area that I live in. And My quality of life is great. I live a mile from campus. Obviously, we would love to have some of the amenities and the budget to play mostly home games. And there's a lot that I would love to have, but those things aren't near as important as what we do have here. And building a culture together is extremely difficult. Having 25 like-minded people in a program takes a lot of time and effort and intentionality. And so I grew up in a lower socioeconomic situation. And so I make more money now than probably I ever dreamed I would make. And so, I don't really have a desire to have a second house or to have a nice boat or to have any of these material things. I want to build a vacation where I vacation and travel and send my kids to college without being stressed and whatnot, and have a car that you're not worried about breaking down. But other than that, I live a pretty simple lifestyle. And when our players made it known that they wanted to come back, there was a very, very small chance that I could leave them. And also what we've been able to build here together.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that. And I think you mentioned a really important part of quality of life. Like, I think that sometimes we can have that, a life that we love to live, but also build something special. I think sometimes there's an idea that to climb and to get higher, I'll be able to maybe build something special, but my quality of life has to fall. I don't know. I think you figured it out, and I'm doing my very, very best at Faith to figure that out, as to a way to have both. And that's that quality of life thing that, man, there are jobs around here that sometimes I think, golly, with the way we play with pace and space, that with those athletes, with those players, that could be a lot of fun. And though in their 7 gyms when we're fighting for 2 gyms, but I love it here. And I don't know, I get that feeling, I get that sense from you.
Yeah, we laugh about it all the time that this weight room that we use in a closet, it's not nice, but it's ours, and it's what we need. It's what we, and so I don't know. It's just one of those things. It's almost like a badge of honor to not have all the things that everyone else has, and to sacrifice like we do, and serve each other like we do. So don't get me wrong. I would love to have some of those things and it would make life more comfortable. But sometimes comfort also makes you a little bit complacent and soft and all that. But I do think that our players, our staff, were really appreciated here for what we're in the process of doing. And it also, I think, when you put a lot of time into your work and a lot of love into your craft, it feels good to be appreciated. And I think we all do that here.
Coach, the speed round, short questions.
Right.
First thing that pops in your head, just blurt it out. You ready?
Yes.
Favorite ice cream flavor?
Chocolate.
Greatest shooter of all time?
Steph Curry.
Texting or talking?
Texting.
Greatest basketball movie of all time?
Hoosiers.
Yeah. Now, especially did you grow up in Indiana?
I did. I actually know some of the characters in the movie. I know some of the real characters. Yeah. I know
nice.
the guy. I know Angelo Pizzo that wrote Hoosiers and produced Hoosiers and Rudy. And yeah, so it runs deep.
There's a clinic that, as I think United Basketball puts on at the Hoosiers, at that gym that the movie was filmed in. That's kind of a bucket list for me, is to go to that clinic. I think it's in the fall. But
a lot of those, I played in a few of those gyms that were technically on the road in the movie. Those were local middle school or elementary gyms from near where I'm from.
That's awesome.
I played games at a few of those. Like Tarun is a gym we played in.
That's awesome. I had the pleasure of getting to talk with Del Harris. I mean, golly, just 70 years of basketball knowledge right there. So I felt completely inadequate being on that call. But I asked him that question, and he said, well, Hoosiers. And he said, I was at that game. I was like, what do you mean you're at that game? He's like, I was a junior high kid. And he gets up and starts walking around. And then he comes over and he's like, can you see that? It was the ticket. He had laminated it from being at the game. And he was like, well, it was a different year, and that wasn't the school's name. And so he gave me all the background that you probably know too. But
yeah, and Angelo said that they had to sensationalize it for Hollywood for obvious reasons.
Yep. But Super cool. I'm in Texas where we have no shot clock for high school. So that's why this question's in here. For high school, shot clock or no shot clock?
24 seconds.
Ooh, I love that, coach. That's aggressive. What about for college, you think 24 seconds?
24 seconds.
I can feel it. I get it. Enough said. Do you think we'll ever get there in college? Do you think it'll ever move there?
I do. I think eventually we'll have a universal game with 4 quarters. Obviously, I don't want to say universal game. The NBA's 3-second defensive rule. There'll be some minor differences, but for the most part, I think we need to have more a universal ball, a universal quarter system. Just more where it's truly a global game, and let's make it a global game.
What do you think's keeping men's college basketball to 2 halves?
Tradition and finances, and I understand that side of it as well.
Yeah.
You need to generate revenue if you want to be able to travel and provide insurance and all the resources and obviously us coaches are grossly overpaid, but to be able to pay staff members and support the people that help make this experience what it is.
What book would you give someone?
Man, I'm an avid reader. Atomic Habits.
Oh, nice.
Mindset. There's so many. Those would be a couple. Playmakers Advantage. Those are some of my favorites of recent memory. My all-time favorites, you just said, Frosty Weathering, make it Big Time Where You Are. A huge Pat Conroy fan. My Losing Season is another classic. Don Meyer made Make the Big Time Where You Are, and then My Losing Season made those two, I think, famous in coaching circles. I absolutely love those 2 books. They changed my life. Confederacy of Dunces is my all-time favorite non-basketball related book.
Okay. A couple more. Your favorite place to travel?
Favorite place I've ever been is Greece.
Nice. Yeah, that's a bucket list for me. That's a good one. How many cups of coffee do you drink per day?
2 max.
Never more.
2 K-cups max. I mean, if I'm traveling, it's a long recruiting day, I might squeeze in a third.
How do you drink it, Coach?
Pardon?
How do you drink it?
K-cup, maybe a splash of cream, no sugar, nothing else. No. If I go to Starbucks, it's a cafe Americano, venti, a couple shots of espresso and hot water. That's my favorite.
Last one, probably the most important in basketball. Who is the GOAT?
Oh man. This one is so difficult because I didn't see Bill Russell and Wilt and those guys play, Oscar Robertson. And obviously every generation is different. We evolve as humans over 50 to 100 years. So I would have to say Jordan, because I grew up getting my teams losing to Jordan every year with the Pacers and Reggie Miller and him just ripping the heart out of everyone that I rooted for. It's hard not to think LeBron James is the most unique talent of all time with his passing ability and his size and skill and intelligence. So, and Kobe, obviously. So I can't really go with one because these are the things that they're so subjective. But if I had to pick someone that I would want to build a team around in the 80s, I would go Jordan. I don't know if his attitude and personality would really click with the guys.
Coach, do you think you could have coached Jordan after watching Last Dance and seeing just his way of leadership? He's not the most rah positive guy on his team, but how do you think that would have gone?
You just have to have the right guys around him, and I think anyone could coach Jordan. I mean,
that's right.
So driven, focused. So yeah, if I'm going to pick one guy, I'm going to pick Jordan.
Yeah. Coach, this was awesome. Thank you so much for making the time. I can't imagine just how busy you've been since this last year, and congratulations just on the success, but really appreciate the way that you coach your players, the culture you're trying to build. This was just an honor for me, man.
Coach, thank you. Great questions. I look forward to watching your team now that we know each other. And if you ever need anything, just give me a shout.
Thanks, Coach.
Yeah, thank you. Enjoyed it.
Thank you for checking out today's episode. Please take a moment to subscribe to this podcast, share it with your fellow coaches, and find us on social media for what's coming up next on the Jamodi Podcast. It's just a matter of doing it.